Damar, I cannot see the Q&A or the chat while I'm screen sharing. So if anybody writes in, just give me a little holler. Good? All right, let's get started.
Okay.
Thanks for coming today. It is an hour. What is an MCP server? If you joined us last week, then you got an overview of what we were going to discuss here. Today, we're going to go in a little deeper. So, an MCP server acts as this secure bridge. Hold on one second. I just have to move that out of the way because I can't see everything. All right, so it acts as a secure bridge between the AI assistant that you already use. Hopefully, you guys are already in love with one of them. Maybe you call him or her Claude. Maybe you call it ChatGPT, Chat. Me and my friends have some alternative names that we fill in right there when we're either super happy or super frustrated. That happens to all of us. I want you to think about it as a smart, sharp new team member that you know can follow instructions, but the better instructions you give it, the better results you're going to get. So let's start with the most simple picture. And on one side, you have Clockwork. That's where all of your data is living. And on the other side, you've picked, I'm just going to roll with Claude for now. So you picked Claude to be your BFF, your new team member. And the MCP server lives right in the middle and bridges the two together. Without that bridge, your AI assistant only knows what you type in the chat, depending on how you have that set up. Maybe it even remembers and learns, but it only knows that what's there. With the MCP server, you now can securely look at your own live data from what's actually there. So let's throw back for a second and think about a GPS system. The roads already were built, they already exist. GPS did not build those roads. It just knows when you're real time there, where to make the turns, when to take an alternate route, what your arrival time is, and it gets you to your destination. In the 90s, we didn't have GPS like that built in. We had to guess or we had to call our friend for a rough set of directions that you kind of eyeballed as you were turning and moving. And maybe you found where you were supposed to go, maybe you didn't, maybe you even had a map. I definitely didn't. But with GPS, you arrived confidently. And that's what the MCP server is doing for you. It takes the guesswork out of the equation for the AI assistant. So, what are the possibilities are hiding behind that MCP server? We're going to lay it out there. It is no longer limited to asking for information. You're going to ask for outcomes. That's the new language I'd really like you guys to adopt here. I want an outcome. It's a mindset as well. So, up until now, you've mostly looked inside of Clockwork and said things to yourself like, I need to find this person, or I have to export that. I need this showing on my dashboard. With the connection, you're going to ask for outcomes. Instead of find me engineers in New York, it's going to sound something like look across my active searches and tell me what needs my attention today. Draft this week's client update for such and such project and get me to where I need to be so much quicker. That's the power of the MCP server. It's not find this information, it's accomplish this work. So, we're going to show you exactly what that looks like. But right now, what I really want you to hold tight is I want you to ask for outcomes. Before you get to ask for outcomes, we have to set you up. So Damar is going to take over from here. He is going to lead us down this path of what that looks like, where you have to be to make these things happen and create this connection. So there's a few things here that are bulleted. You can look at it really quick, but I am going to stop screen sharing and I'm going to let Damar take over.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to share my screen here.
And before your screen loads, I want to let you guys know if you are putting questions in, we are stopping 3 different times during our session to ask questions. You don't have to wait all the way to the end.
Awesome. All right. So, as Beth just had on her screen, there is a checklist of things you want to make sure you have before we can get going. So, first being, make sure you're logged into Clockwork. So, I have my instance here open. This is me in my Clockwork environment. Um, the second is have feature enabled. And then lastly, making sure you have a paid AI assistant account, whether that's Claude, ChatGPT, or a Copilot. Now, some people might be asking, how do I know if my feature is enabled in Clockwork? There is an indicator on there, and I want to stress the fact that this doesn't mean you should try to connect through it. It's just an indicator to go and say this is on, and if it's not, let us know. So again, we're not looking to inside of Clockwork. We want to do that inside of your AI assistant. So now that I'm logged in, you just want to go into your profile. So your profile picture or initials in the top right, and then go to profile. Once you're inside your own profile, we scroll down to the bottom, towards the bottom, and all you need to see is options. No more, no less. You have your connection is enabled on our end for your firm environment. Now that we know that the feature is enabled, we're going to jump back into our AI assistant. So now we're going to focus on connecting. So for this, and this, I'm sure this is the part everyone was kind of waiting for, but so now we're going to connect. So first, we're going to start off with going to customize connectors. And so if this hasn't been set up yet, the admin of your AI assistant does have to follow this step. Everyone else, it will appear, but we go into your AI assistant. And for those that are using Chat or Copilot, we do have articles in our knowledge base, and there's step-by-step guides to help you get there. Asking the AI answers inside of Clockwork or the knowledge base will not set it up for you. You will have to follow those step-by-steps. And so as we're going through this and we're adding the connector, we want to use add custom connector here. Is there any questions so far, or how are we? Did I
There
lose
are some
someone?
questions. Nope, there
Okay.
are questions. Do you want me to start answering them?
If I lost someone.
Okay, so we have one question, particularly somebody who is a little lost. It is,
Mhm.
they don't know where you are right now.
Right now, I am inside of Claude.
Okay, so what
So
we're highlighting today is Claude. Don't
yeah,
worry, the instructions for ChatGPT are there. The instructions for Copilot are there. We're going to
yeah,
give you all those instructions on how to find the directions of completing your connection.
yeah. And you will be able to find those in our knowledge base under their name. So in Claude right now, if you're following along in the same space, I am going to customize in the top left, connectors, and we want to add this connector to add custom connector. So from here, the name, I'm going to call it Clockwork MCP. You can call it whatever you like. Awesome. All right. And so for the next part, we need to remote MCP or server URL. That in Claude, in Chat, in Copilot, that is always going to be uh, mcp.clockworkrecruiting.com. And this is in every single article as well for you to copy and paste. Now we add the custom connector, and we can see you're not connected to Clockwork yet. So we want to go ahead and click connect. And so the reason we keep our environment open is so when we connect it, we know what we're connecting to, right? So from here, we click connect. Now it's going to ask for an authorization. We can see here permissions show for read and write access. Right now, it is only read access available. We have write in here, so once that is becomes available, we're able to push that through without having to go through double authorization. We can have that set up, but right now it is only read access to your data. I have a drop down because yes.
Hold on, sorry, because you already said that. I do want to acknowledge Drew, you asked, and Jason, you both asked. It is read-only correct, but we
Oh,
are
okay.
looking at the roadmap to include the ability to write in. It's a work in progress. We're not 100% sure, so I can't say yes, we have a slated date or release time just yet, but we're working on it.
Right. And so that's why it's here under the permissions. So once we do, or if we do get that done, push that straight through for you and let you know. So once you have your firm environment displayed, you can also double check at the very bottom, signed in, make sure you're signed in as yourself, just in case another confirmation. And then we want to authorize. Now that we're authorizing the connection, we can see in the URL it says success, but it's also going to give us a pop-up notification letting us know that we're connected.
Mhm.
And now I can open Claude. It's going to open me back up to my desktop version. And from here, it should load up. Did I? Okay, there we go. It should load up our connectors, our list of tools. As you can see, there are 23 tools are slated for me. Always allow. You can go through these and you don't have to remember these by names. Claude will already know this. So these are just read-only tools you're willing to maybe always allow. Um, Needs approval. Claude will ask you for permission to go and look for this information, or you can block it as an option. Or you can use custom and you can choose your own fields depending on the actual tool and the data you might want it to grab or not want it to gather. So things around company information, people, project fees, project locations, project teams, companies. So it's a long list of these that you can, again, you don't have to remember. These are tools available to you through Claude. And that when you use the tool and ask it to find the information, it'll go and grab that for you. I'm going to put always allow because I've tried this before and it asks us a lot of questions. So I use mine as always allow. Now, once this is connected and each team member connects to your AI assistant, the tool,
I think Damar is frozen for everyone. Can you just let me know in the chat? Because he's frozen for me. Yes, he's frozen. Okay. So what you can do at the top of your screen, you can change tabs and you can click on the webinar tab, which means you won't be seeing Damar's screen anymore. So we're going to pause his portion of this and we're going to move on. We can jump back to it, no problem. So right now I am sharing my screen. Um, okay. Right now I'm sharing my screen. If you cannot see my screen, please let me know. And I'm just going to send a quick message because we do have another host on here hiding in the background. Okay, so we're going to move on. Hopefully, you've all understood my instructions. You're going to click the tab on the side so you can see me sharing my screen now. Damar, I took over.
thank you.
Okay, so Damar, you should not be sharing your screen. I'm going to be sharing my screen.
Mhm.
We can pick up where you left off at the very end, but I can't see the chat box. All right, everybody. So the old way. Let's start with how it's always been done before. You open a search, you copy and paste the job specs, you copy and paste contract details, you copy and paste so on and so on and so forth. You find candidates, you update candidates, you copy, you paste, you move things into emails, you email manually, either inside Clockwork or inside your Gmail or Outlook. You're going to create client updates. You're going to copy stuff here, paste stuff there, export this, create a spreadsheet maybe. Maybe you're going to open up another tool, and then you're going to spend tons of time reformatting and making it sure it looks exactly the way you want. Then you do it again and again and again for every candidate, every search, every client. The frustrating part about this is the administrative overhead. You are now acting as the bridge between systems, moving information from one place to another and understanding what the workings and the mechanics are behind the scenes. You are acting as the MCP server. We are taking that heavy administrative overhead away from you and we're passing it on to the MCP server. So now let's look at the new way. The new way is going to, instead of opening five different applications, you have four major, huge monitors going. You are moving stuff from here to there, and you look really busy. You feel really busy, and that's just ridiculous. So, what we want you to do is we want you to use the MCP server to move in between. We want the AI assistant who already understands the tools that you use every day because you've created this connection with the MCP server to all of them. You have taught it what your branded emails look like. You've taught it what everything needs to be. It's going to pull the information from Clockwork. It's going to draft that client update. It's going to pull information from Google Docs or Slack to review, summarize your notes that you've put into Clockwork, all that hard work. It might be pulling from an AI note taker. It might be combining recruiting activity. It might be looking at revenue data from QuickBooks. Who knows what you have open, but no longer do you need to copy and paste it, move it over. For example, here on the screen, I've showed you what kind of things you are going to create in a template. You're going to create your logo, you're going to create your colors, you're going to make sure that it has information so it can look and do things the way you would. You can create a template like I did here on the left. Beautiful Thaddeus is pictured in the top left. It says first name, last name, job title, and all the things that I thought would be very cool to have as a visual representation across the board, no matter what. I load that into my AI assistant, and what you see here on the right is based off of the information that I have put into Clockwork. I've put so much effort in to make sure it's clear, clean, concise, and retrievable. An example that I want to point out here is photos don't have an API endpoint, so it can't be retrieved, but that placeholder is there as an option. All you have to do is drag and drop. So the manual lift there is a 4-second click, drag, drop move versus creating a template every single time, making sure fields are aligned and your text boxes all match up. All right. How do you know where to start? It can seem a little overwhelming, and that's why we have created this full prompt playbook. You're going to get it after the session, and every prompt that you see in there, by the way, it's beautiful, it's organized, very easy to digest, and you can jump from section to section. When you do this, you're going to use this as a starting point. You're going to use this as an adaptation to what you really want that outcome to be. So, first thing in the morning, you might want to run a daily project pulse. Maybe every single day you need meeting preps. Maybe you want to triage your inbox because every single day you show up to work and you have 337 emails, and your Outlook or your Google isn't quite smart enough to get it cleaned up the way you really want it to. You can create a weekly project status report. It's going to pull live data every single time. You don't have to worry whether or not it really knows, am I connected here? Am I connected there? If something doesn't work, you go inside your Claude, you go inside your chat, and you can see maybe you're connected or disconnected. How do you do it? So, the first thing that you're going to do here is learn how to just copy and paste. Very simple. I showed you here on the left. I want to do the daily project pulse. It tells you exactly where you need to copy from and where you need to copy into. You put it into your AI assistant, and the screenshot in the center is the feedback that my AI assistant gave me based off of the prompt. From here, you can do a lot of other steps. You can create maybe a visually more appealing report. Maybe you want to take this, combine it with a Slack conversation you're having, and then generate an email. You wouldn't have been able to do that before without dragging and dropping information from Clockwork into another area, then pulling Slack information, putting it together, writing the email. It's effortless. And that's what we want to get across. The outcome that I wanted from this daily project pulse might be bigger than just this alone. At the very bottom of every section in the prompt playbook, you also have an adapt it. So we've given you some recommendations there. You don't have to feel restricted here. You can definitely make this your own. And we want you to do that. The next two sessions that we have for pro tips that follow a workshop are going to be an MCP review Q&A. It's going to be very live and engaging. We want you to come to us with situations where you've taken a prompt, you've put it in, you've had a great result, you've had a mediocre result, you need help with the result, you adapted it this way and had an even better result. As a community, we can come together and really leverage the power of the MCP server to help us all be quicker and more efficient at our every single day, lower that administrative overhead, and make us feel like we are creating something that is bigger than AI and bigger than that manual lift. One thing that you might be asking yourself is, well, if I put candidate information in there and I'm going to create, let's just say, a client update or a client briefing. I'm not sure what you guys call it, different terminology. What if I put information on a client that isn't, I mean, sorry, a candidate that isn't uh, visible yet to the client? Is Claude going to know that? Is my AI assistant going to know that? Well, yes, this is client safe by default. So it only includes candidates and notes that have been marked as visible to the client. And it uses the stoplight that Clockwork already established. This goes back to the MCP. We want to tie it all together. The MCP is kind of that candy wrapper. If you came to our last webinar, we talked about how it was a candy wrapper. It went around the GPS. It creates this cohesiveness. We built that into our MCP server so it understands. It doesn't have to think outside the box and wait for you to give it more information. So, what we want here is you to feel empowered to produce reports, emails, review them. This is key, right? And then send it. Let's tie it all back to the beginning. We invited this new team member into our organization. We're going to give it really good instructions, and then we're going to get really good prompts back or responses back. That doesn't mean they're perfect, and that doesn't mean we still don't have to keep that human component live and in charge. So we're going to review it, and then we're going to hit the send button. This also ties into the read write responsibilities of the permissions that you're granting. If we do turn on the write, then you have the power in your AI assistant to turn on or off those options. We are just not quite there yet. So, what we're going to do a little different in the other two workshops is really dive into deep the prompts, and the outcomes. This webinar today really highlighted as a whole what we're doing, how we're bringing it together, why it's coming together, and what the power behind the MCP server is. So I'm going to pause here and give you guys a chance to ask more questions before we move on to the last piece. Oop, I missed one. Hold on one second. Sorry about that, guys. I thought we saw the last one. Okay, so when you have taught it, I'm going to back up. I'm glad I saw that. When you've taught it what your colors look like, what your branding is, you can take it, like I said, one step further. Here's your branded status report. Draft my email again, review and send. That's where I left off. But maybe you want to create something really powerful like a dashboard. Maybe you want to create this um, reporting here where it's color coded. If you put your branding in, your AI assistant can go ahead and generate those reports based off of the colors that you have given it information to build that looks just like your branding. What I'm going to do really quick is turn this back over to Mars since we cut him off. We're going to give him a second to join us again.
Perfect. All right.
And then
Um,
we do have some questions coming in. So if it pertains to what you're doing, I'm going to just pause you and ask.
okay. I also answered some of the questions in the chat if you want
Okay,
to
great.
review or go over it, but I touched on some of those. So there we go. Awesome. So I do want to actually small tangent on what you just covered. I think
Mhm.
is important, and I think is part of one of the questions. So basically, I do have your status report version of what you were just talking about, and I created my own. I used a template, very simple language. I need to use this for this project, provided the link. It did the rest. It told me I only have 7 visible clients. And it showed me I have some that have do not contact. So maybe it flagged them for that to let me know. And I had additional candidates that were not uh, visible for clients. So it goes back to what you were saying, just piggybacking on that for confirmation. I asked for it to add 20 more candidates just in case to build out the report. It gave me all the context that you just displayed, and it provided me a template showing, again, what you just covered is it shows the actual document as it's expanding and loading. And then there is an additional page, and this goes to one of the questions as well. There, the system does know the difference. It provides me the actual page and breakout, but it also provides me an internal review only for the people that are not made visible and data that is not made visible. So it will find those things, but it's going to separate it and it's going to let you know this is internal view only because of the visibility options. So this is what the connections, and the other is I wanted to, as my last piece, I wanted to show you. I'll back up because I just seen that note. But so I'm gonna back up here a second. Um, and then I'm also going to help myself here and expand my screen so you can see this. So as this loads, again, of course, my internet. Sorry, guys. There we go. Now let's expand it. We can see that is the same data Beth just shared. And at the bottom, we can see internal review only because everyone else in here and their status is marked as a no visibility inside of my project. So that is the difference. It will detail that and break that up for you. The other piece I wanted to show is just the language. I don't want people getting too lost in maybe some fancy language or like trying to figure things out. I use a different example for the resume that Beth displayed as well. And for this one as well, I use it, and my language is very simple. I have a template generated brand resume. This is the person in this project. Generate a brand new resume for this person. So, and include their criteria or whatever else is special to you inside of your report. and it'll go through, it'll find that information, and it'll provide you a resume version. And I did it, I use it for, sorry, take a step back. And with that, when it provides you an answer, if you don't like what it does or how it looks, let it know. Some of the headers are unformatted, create more space for text, look again for in career history here. And it confirmed, it found some more information, it dug deeper, and it gave me a better report that resume I was able to use. So I would always take that first response from your AI assistant as more of a draft to fact check. I wouldn't use that as fact right away. So just take a nice view of it. If you don't like it, go ahead and change it, and then you can give it more direction so you can actually have what you need. And I tried it with the second person. It came out exactly how the first one did. So it gave me it remembered my changes, the details I gave it, and it provided me a actual resume PDF of what I was asking, and it broke down everything that it found as well. So it could be very general language, but it's going to break that down, and you can get a better version of it.
And what
Actually,
you
let me go
actually said
back.
right there was a good segue into a question that we have. How consistent across these status reports are they week to week? You're going to have to play with your AI assistant and really see what that consistency looks like. But from Damar's example here, he fed it a template. He gave it the groundwork, so he gave it the instructions that it followed, and then he said something really key. I made these changes, it remembered, it changed, it did it like this, and here's the result. The
Yeah.
more instruction you give it, the more streamlined and consistent your results will be. There is a second part to the question, but I'm not going to answer that just yet. I'm going to let you continue.
Yeah, so I just wanted to take a step back here, right? So this is the same thing Beth showed in her slide. This is the same one I used. So in my initial send off to Claude, it shot me back a resume, and it gave me the details of the person. And I wanted to highlight this because we can see for this one, some of it is a little off. Spacing was off, so I let it know that some of the headers are unformatted. So, and again, we always want to check to make sure that that is showing the way we want it to, and that you can make those changes to discuss with Claude to get you your final result.
Mhm. Can I jump in really quick?
Yeah, please.
Okay. When we talk about check the work, one of the interesting things was in order for us to prepare for this, Damara and I had been working in a fake environment, a sandbox environment, and we've been going in each day as if we were recruiters and we were putting in notes, putting in interview transcripts, and acting as though we were running through real projects. I guess I accidentally wrote a note about a Diane on another person's profile, sorry, on another person's candidacy. And I ran the prompt and everything looked really great in the preview. And then I actually read the full explanation that my Claude gave me. So like Damar just showed, he had the window open of the preview. So that's what I had open. And then I was reading through the information. Sometimes it's a little long and it said, I found an error here. I know we're talking about this person. However, there's a very detailed note that seems accurate to be about this person, Diane. Do you want to fact check? Do you want me to fabricate? How should I proceed? So I found that very interesting. It proofread, and I should proofread.
And yeah, so that's the end of the examples. Those are the 2 points. I just wanted to show the language is very short. It doesn't have to be this long, super technical uh, response. It's just, hey, this is what I want. And it's once you put that format in for the first time, you can just go back to that we want to call it project. We call it chat. We call it chat of this of where you started, and you can just add in new. So for this one, we can see. All I did for the message, I just changed the person's name and I gave a little more details on the spacing of the header. And it looked at it and it said, "Here's the person's resume, pulled from her actual Clockwork record in parentheses, not Marie's. I generated this one fresh for her." So it remembered that the first person I used it for was Marie, but it knows to use that as a template and make the change. So to believe that's Thomas's question,
Mm-hmm.
it is in this chat. The memory does stay in this chat, and you can keep adding to it and making your changes. You don't have to keep rebuilding it. You can go back to that, and it'll identify and make the fresh changes.
So Thomas just asked another question. Is that because you're adding to the memory or created a skill? This, what Damar is showing right here, is creating memory,
Hmm.
not a skill. Those are two completely different things. So very high level, yes, creating skills is going to be a way to essentially, and I don't want to necessarily say skill because we are talking about AI assistants as a whole. We're not talking about just
Yeah,
Claude, and a skill is a
right.
Claude term. So the more skills, the more training you give your AI assistant instruction that it has to live and breathe by and follow every single time versus talking to it in this one chat about this one activity or this one outcome you're looking for. So building upon building upon building outside of this independent chat is a very, very good idea. And I don't want to steal your thunder because you're doing a fantastic job showing them live. Just let me know when you want to transition to a full Q&A and wrap up. Yes? Okay.
Yeah, still.
So we have is is there a way to change the order in which colors rank when you re-rank candidates by color? So again, is there a way to make the green always be on top? Can Claude help with this? So we can't answer, can Claude help with this? We can answer, in general, do AI assistants have the ability to do certain things? Damar, you look like you were going to answer.
Uh, it's a two-parter. So to your point, right, you're saying can the AI assistant? So that has to come through the language you're providing it. Inside of Clockwork, if you're in grid view and you're ordering it, it has a hierarchy that it follows. So that's what you're seeing. Now, when you take that project and the ranks and you tell your AI assistant, hey, I want them in this color category difference, then that's up to the AI assistant to go through and change and test in the language you provided. I can't say yes, it'll do it because even if you've seen in my share screen at the very bottom, it says Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double check responses. So I don't want to say yes and it comes back unordered and unorganized and you're like, this should be
Correct.
working. So I want you to make sure that language is I don't want to say combative, but more conversational with the AI assistant to get you the order that you want. I would definitely run that through your AI assistant to get that order together. But in Clockwork, it is set to a hierarchy based off of the colors that already exist.
So to lean into what you just said, remember, we're teaching you how to leverage the MCP server, not necessarily leverage your AI assistant. So we have put inside that candy wrapper, inside that MCP server, the understanding of the color hierarchy. So it is going to lean into what it knows and what it can learn from the MCP server. So if you're going to have it lean into something else, right? So if you're going to teach Claude to lean into something else, understand that those are going to be contradicting each other. So an even sharper eye is important. We do have
Cool.
another question in case you want to jump
No, that
in.
was great.
Okay.
That was great.
So between Claude and ChatGPT, have you found one or the other to be better with template graphics, overall summaries, and overall resumes? So before we answer, I would love to challenge all the people that we have here. Put your feedback in. Let's all answer Patricia. Have you seen one to be better, one to not really love? One, that you don't really love the output of XYZ. So jump on this, type in the chat, let us know which one is your favorite. If you're using two, which by the way, using your MCP server, you can go ahead and connect Claude and ChatGPT and you can play Battle of the Bands. So we have lots of things coming in here. I'm going to give you guys a second to pour your heart and soul into your responses. Damar, go ahead.
Yeah, before we go into that, I want to jump back. I seen something in the chat. So, your AI assistant, um, if you're using Claude, ChatGPT, Copilot, it is not going to communicate with the AI, Kai support bot in Clockwork. That is separate. That is fed by our knowledge base, our training environment details, and that's where that chat is looking at. So if you're in the application, you're using our AI assistant that says Kai support, that is looking at just our training and support documents to provide you details about how to work in the application. This is completely outside of it, but it can read and provide you back details based off the prompts. So I just wanted to clarify that that is two different worlds. So if we get off this call and you tell Claude, Chat, or Copilot, or you tell our AI assistant in Clockwork, hey, go talk to Chat, it's not going to know what you're talking about because it'll provide you the steps on how to set it up, but it won't reach out and go speak to it. So I just wanted to clarify those differences as we're talking about the two AI assistants in that chat.
Thank you. So, Damar, I'm writing separately to somebody really quick. Can you read through some of the responses?
Yeah, Claude. I'm seeing Claude is dominant in most aspects. It looks like a lot of Claude votes here. Someone says they love working with PPTX files and templates. Docs has had some troubles in the past. Claude better for template graphics and summaries. Claude. Some people said they haven't used ChatGPT or Gemini to cast a vote, but they've used Claude. Um,
I love
Allison
Thomas's
Harris.
answer about Claude and images. I agree. Claude
Yeah.
and images, for me, terrible. Chat GPT and images, so much better. Mhm.
There was one thing in here too that if you're using Claude, I found out that if you have a document or something in PowerPoint and you put that into Claude, for some reason it loves it. I
Mhm.
don't know why, but it loves PowerPoint if you put that document into Claude. So that and I've used PDF, but PowerPoint, man, is like it is like the best thing for it, in my opinion, of what I've seen. So it's-
I've also found that if you have a template or a doc already built and give it to Claude or
yes,
ChatGPT, it works much better than, yes, agreed.
yes,
It works much
yes.
better than asking Claude to create a template. One thing I do want to say is, as somebody who does use both, ChatGPT will always, and this is just for me because of how I have used it and how I have leveraged it, will always make anything communication wise, anything grammar related, anything that I need to reflect me as a person in an outcome of verbal communication or documentation or content creation. Chat does it every time. However, I have Claude create all of the analytical, all of the data. I feed that to chat, and then chat makes it sound like me if I want it to sound more like me, or I will encourage Claude to make it sound more human. Images, again, I've already said that. And then everything else I live and breathe in Claude. One thing before, because I don't see any questions coming in, before we get any more additional questions, if you had to ask Claude, we did get one more question. If you had the chance to create your own prompt, what would it be? Type it in the box. I'm going to hold you to it if you come to our next workshop, because I'm going to say, did it already live in the prompt playbook? Did it align? And were you able to work with the prompt that you came up with today and build and grow and develop it? And if so, what did it transform into? So I'd love for you guys to hold yourself accountable, put in what you want to prompt. We're not going to go into it and teach you how to make it better today, but I would love for you to take on that challenge. So over the next week, you can work on diving into our prompt playbook. How is Claude doing when you ask it to source candidates in an unstructured way? Example, not using target companies or past projects, just find me X in Clockwork. Do you have a recommendation for this process? I'm reading this two ways. So, are you saying find me X as in find me Sharon Smith? Or are you saying find me X as in find me an engineer in New York? If you could clarify that
Mm.
and find me a candidate, so a specific candidate's profile, not a single person. Okay, so Thomas says find a candidate profile, not a single person. I'm not sure if I follow still.
So
Damar, do you know what he's?
if I think you were saying the latter of what you said. Yeah, so the
Okay,
latter of what you said. Yeah.
hold on. I'm trying to see who's asking what. So I have found very good results with that. Um, Damar, I don't know how much you've played around with it.
Yeah, I mean it again, it's the context you give it. I've been able to use if you've been in my training, I use a lot of like marketing examples. So I've been veering away from that and been using certain job titles, companies, years. And so again, it's good at going to find that those details, but sometimes it'll say like, oh, I couldn't find the work history of certain people. So you tell it to look again, and the second time it finds it. So
Hmm.
it is good on that, but again, you just have to be vigilant on what you're communicating to it. But I haven't had many struggles with it. Um, I would also say give it an amount of people because if your database is huge and you're
Yeah.
like, provide me these VP of marketing or COOs here and you have thousands, you're going to get thousands. So I would probably limit that as like the top
Mhm.
10 or 20 based off your criterias, and then maybe say dig deeper or this person stand out. You keep stretching what you're looking for until you actually get very specific on what you need. And then you can close the ranks and say, now the top five. With all
Hmm.
that considered, who are my top five with all this considered? And then it'll provide you that list and it'll tell you why it provided that list. But I would also, again, give it an amount of people if you have a very large database.
That actually is one of the talking points that I did not say out loud and is on our presentation. It's about guardrails. So creating these guardrails when you are doing prompts is going to really create a more fine-tuned response. And then when you have those in play, then the questions like Damar came up with, which were only do 30 people and then it says, well, I couldn't find this, it's because it had a more shallow pool. So it
Mhm.
wasn't giving you a list of 500 people because you had put that guardrail up of only find me 30 people. It was able to actually say, well, this one didn't have, instead of a broader response. And then you're able to create that shallow pool and really find the nitty gritty. One of the recommendations I would also give, like he used a number of people, give a timeline, only look at people I've communicated with or have had notes or any
Mhm.
updates on whatever, I'm not sure how you're using this, between the last 60 days. Or maybe you want to look at only people who have been candidates. So the guardrails, come up with a good set of guardrails. Um,
Yes.
Is enterprise level required, recommended for use with either AI agent here, business versus business? So you do have to have a paid account. We missed a question. Claude seems to be good. Oh, that was feedback. We use prompts with specific documentation to create research criteria for each search. Can that be done with the MCP integration? So again, we want you to think outcome. So what are you having the MCP server look at to populate those research criterias? So theoretically, yes, you could use the MCP server to help assist this, but to what degree, I'm not sure what outcome you're truly looking for there. Um, could you do a learning session? Oh, wait, hold on. Can you do a learning session with more examples of this? More examples of what in particular, Andrea? Jump back on, let us know what this is. Last minute items
I
before
think
leaving.
that's a thing.
Yeah. Um, I'm gonna wait for Andrea. Learning session for more examples of what? I'm thinking she might be referring to the guardrails, like how to create more guardrails to your prompts.
Mhm.
And that's a really good one. I do like that. More examples of what Damar is talking about
Yeah,
creating lists of profiles.
exactly.
I even wrote a post-it. All right. Could be a poll or just a question. Oh, could be a poll or just a question. What model and effort level do you find yourself using for complex tasks like custom reports or sourcing? What is the sweet spot? That's a really good one. And that is going to be covered much more in depth in workshop two. Um, Demar, it looked like you were going to say something.
No, you're good.
Okay. Effort level, the prompt playbook has some really, really good ones. Complex tasks, it's interesting you say that. What I have seen over the last like 60 days-ish with people who are using chat and Claude and AI assistants all over, ask in pieces. So your prompt might not necessarily be one long, huge strand of questions, instructions, etc. Maybe you want to break it down so it's a little bit more digestible. So start here, then move forward so the complexity is broken up. And think to yourself, how many instructions have I given it? Anything more than three levels of complexity, three big things, it's too much. It'll take a very long time, and the results are not as great. Damar, what do you think?
No, that was so I've been saying conversational with Claude or your AI assistant this whole time. That's exactly what I meant. If a person is giving you this long speech and they're just looking at you all the time, you're kind of going to zone out. And I feel like that's kind of what happens, or data gets mixed up or changed from this long spill of text. But if you're breaking it down in small pieces, conversation style, then you get really into what you're looking for. Instead of just, like I said, we don't want big, long, complex messages. We want very short, sweet, here's what I want out of this, looking like this, and let it do its thing. And then once it provides you what it says, now you can tweak and adjust and make it better. But you just want that very general few sentences if you can, and then it'll you can have a conversation with it.
Yes. We did have another question that maybe I wasn't clear in the beginning, so I want to make sure everybody gets to leave with this. The AI prompt book is going to be sent out after this. You don't have to go searching for it. You don't have to think that you missed it. It is going to be sent out once the conclusion of this first workshop has happened. There's another question. Nope, has happened. Do we want to give them a sneak peek of what is to come?
Let's do it.
All right. Hopefully you have stuck around till the end. Coming up
Yes.
next week, pro tips. It's going to be all about MCP, follow-up questions. If nobody comes with that, then we will stick with our traditional pro tips series, which is creating power users out of all of you. Workshop 2, it's truly aimed towards partners and owners. Pro tips after that is going to likely lean more into the partners and owners because I'm sure they'll come with even more questions. If not, again, we will fall back to our traditional pro tip series. Workshop number 3, data to deliverables. For those who were saying custom reporting type of things, yes, it's going to be in workshop 2, but even more so in workshop 3. And then after that, pro tips reverts back to what it has always been, creating power users with a focus topic outside of the MCP server. So pro tips is going to stick with using Clockwork in a greater capacity. It is not going to focus on the MCP server. So what we're going to launch after that is a bi-weekly. So pro tips will be 1 week. And then the opposite week, we will be hosting an MCP office hours. And that is going to be an opportunity for you to continue sharpening your MCP skills, continue sharpening the way in which you are working between, right? Working between Clockwork, having the power of the MCP server be able to connect with other things to create the outcomes that you're looking for, reducing that manual administrative overhead and really just sky's the limit. Build some dashboards, people. Let's go. All right, I think we are at time and can wrap. If you have more questions, please come to our pro tips next week. If you are signed up for today's webinar and you attended, you are signed up for all 3. Thank you guys so much for coming. Damar, amazing screen sharing skills. Thank you so much for the great explanations that you gave along the way and for being an amazing co-host with me. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.